Welcome to another edition of Focus Forward here on Studio 3. My name is Jamie Salinas, CEO of Forward Worthington. We are, of course, the Chamber of Commerce, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Worthington Regional Economic Development Corporation for Worthington and the surrounding Nobles County area. And this is, like I said, Focus Forward, where we spotlight the people and the stories moving our community forward. Today, we are joined by Dr. Wayne Freese. Dr. Freese, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it. For the folks that don't know you just yet, give us a bit of some of the origin story with you, who you are, what you do.
Okay, I grew up in northwest Iowa and went to Iowa State University where I got a DVM degree. And when I got out, I looked for different jobs, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and found an area I liked, 15 miles west of here in Adrian, Minnesota. And so I started in a large animal practice over in Adrian, Minnesota, and after a year or so, I moved in with a larger group over in Worthington. And I lived in Adrian and then moved to Worthington because it was a little more convenient in the nighttime area, going different directions. So I was in a practice, did a lot of dairy work and swine work, and at that time, we just needed some more tools to help us in disease identification, and then we could put in proper plans.
Okay. Maybe expand a little bit more on that early on in Worthington, the problems that you were most determined to solve for producers and your clients.
Sure. When I started in 1971, 72, moved to Worthington, and back then you took out tissues from a farm place and you sent it to a regional diagnostic lab, either Iowa State or Minnesota or South Dakota State, and all this took time, and you were on the bubble because you had to make decisions right away. And I'd had a background in college that we did a lot of diagnostic microbiological work at the bench level, and so I had brought some medias and supplies to my first job, and I took them to the second job, and we a lot of times would do our own lab setups while we sent something out, so we could have an answer within maybe 18 to 24, 30 hours versus 4 or 5 days later. And then, but that wasn't the only issue we'd run into in trying to solve a problem. Even if you got the answer, you had to come up with a solution. And back in those days, it was either antibiotics or vaccines, and antibiotics short-term, but the vaccines were for a long-term coverage. And in those days, there were many, many commercial products. Some of them worked and some of them didn't work as well. And in the veterinary field, you're always going to have new things pop up. Things change. E. coli changes. Clostridium changes. So you had to diagnose it, and oftentimes we started running into diseases that couldn't be handled by a commercial vaccine. And so our focus started turning toward solve the problem, short-term and long-term, try to prevent it. And we moved into the era of vaccines that there was no commercial product on the market. Example of that was really crystal clear. In the 70s, there was a canine parvovirus in dogs that was really hard on the dog population, tremendous diarrhea, things like that. And so we worked together with a firm down in Omaha that had some prior work with this vaccine strain, or with a viral strain. And so we moved from our veterinary clinic to a house behind the veterinary clinic because we had more and more equipment, more and more laboratory procedures to do. So at that time, we hooked up with this other researcher and came up with a solution for canine parvovirus.
Wow.
That quickly got on the market, and then other companies eventually licensed products. And what happens in our world is that what used to take something to get licensed might be 2 or 3 years. That's stretched now into 7, 8, and even 10 years. So if you have a problem here in 2026 and it's 10 years for a commercial solution, that's a long time. And a lot of times the companies will start working on a project and then it just changes, and then 10 years later, it's not as big a problem as it was to begin with. And it wasn't what the company thought it was going to be on the end. So with that in mind, there's a lot of changes in the animal health world.
So eventually, we go from a local solutions to more national. It's kind of where we're at, right? Where you're at right now. When did that change from being just a local thing to all of a sudden you're nationwide?
Well, we started working from about 1975 to 1982 with a small regional lab here, and we could work for ourselves and the neighbors if we stayed in Minnesota or something like that. And we had a lot of demand for the types of things we were doing. And then the rules changed with the USDA, and they said if you're going to have a lab, then you have to get it USDA licensed. And there was exceptions for veterinary practices and large producers. And so we said, well, if we're going to have to USDA license products, then we need a bigger, better facility. We need a research farm. And if we do that, then we have to get more toward a regional selling of vaccines and maybe even national. And so our facility, our first facility, didn't lend itself well to having enough capacity. We had to get a larger facility. For example, we were on Oxford Street in Worthington in a house that we started with, and in 1980 we built a building on the south side of Worthington and bought 5 acres and then started putting in various buildings, one for a production facility, another one for a diagnostic laboratory, and we built on a research unit to that. And then we started selling more regional in the Midwest, and from there it went to even larger scope across the United States. So all started out with 1 or 2 products, and it kept growing. And in this business, it's a lot of business done by veterinarian to veterinarian. And in the rules and regulations of the USDA, for a custom-made product, is what we usually did, you have to, if you're going to come up with a solution, you have to work through another veterinarian on the farm place. You always have to be working with the veterinarian on the farm place. And that's for custom-made or autogenous vaccines. That's one category of vaccine. That's what we always started working with. And as we got larger, then we went out and developed research farms, and we went and made commercial vaccines. And those commercial vaccines didn't have to have like a prescription or veterinary patient relationship. You could go to other states and you could go across the country. One category is commercial. That took a lot longer to license. Used to be 2 to 3 years. Now it's up to 8 to 10 years. But once you're licensed and sanctioned by the USDA, then that can be sold to people that call in. It could be sold to a producer or a veterinarian. On the custom-made front, that has to be handled solely by a veterinarian with a veterinary client-patient relationship.
Sure.
So there's kind of 2 categories. And what's really been interesting is as time has gone on and livestock operations have gotten bigger and bigger, then there's been more changes with certain viruses and bacteria. So what you made on a commercial level, all of a sudden it's changed, and you have to really, to solve the problem, you have to get a custom-made product, and then maybe that can go commercial. Things keep changing. And a lot of the custom or autogenous products now in most smaller companies are made to commercial standards.
Okay.
So, and it really boils down to being able to come up with 2 new technologies to diagnose and then you have to have good diagnostics, and you have to then take it into a research laboratory and start working with it. We have about between 15 and 20 people that work in diagnostics and or research.
Oh, wow, okay. Here in Worthington, because I know you have other facilities, say in Iowa as well.
Yes, well, all our research and diagnostics is done here in Worthington.
Okay.
And there's 20 people in this BAC building over here, and so that's all here. Our main office is here. Our customer service people are here. We have about 15 people in the country right now, across the country.
Okay.
And our production facilities are in Sioux Center, Iowa, but we've recently licensed a building here in town on Oxford Street. It's USDA licensed right now.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so what we deal with is cattle is our largest source of revenue, sales, and then there's swine's next, and our poultry vaccines are approaching now closer to swine. And we also plan to, we're starting to work on aquaculture or fish products, tilapia salmon.
Okay.
The salmon is going to be, it's for the most part, it's going to be used on the east and west coast of Canada, those vaccines. So our long-term approach is we want to build more production facilities in Worthington. And we've already started the discussion of what's next, and we want to do that between our office and the diagnostic lab.
Okay. Okay. Before we move on to what you are today with, mainly with Cambridge Technologies, talk a little bit about some of the other businesses that were under the Prairie Holdings
Yes.
Umbrella.
Well, the Veterinary Medical Center was under the Prairie Holdings umbrella. We had a IT business on Oxford Street called Ideas. At one time, we managed the FBO base. Cameron Johnson was running it, and then he took that business on his own after about 10 years with us. We had a pig management business for people as they grew. We were providing management services, and that was called ProPig. We had also, we had a feed business, nutrition business, that was sort of between the animal health and the pig management business. So there was, and we did financials for other operations, small businesses.
Okay.
And so that was recently changed in about 2020. Then we started separating off businesses. We've sold off about 3 businesses, and we really now have, in this facility, we have Cambridge Technologies, and it stands by itself. And then the veterinarians have a business called Profectus that stands by itself, which I'm no longer involved with.
I understand. Actually, the building for Perfect, that's just right next door to the building
Yes.
we're in right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to Cambridge here then. So maybe the short answer, what does Cambridge Technologies do?
Okay, well, I'm going to step back a second. Oxford
Yes.
Laboratories was on the south side of town,
Okay.
and that's now owned by Merck. That was our first lab.
Okay.
Newport Laboratories was the second facility, and the office for that is in the industrial park here. Vaxonova handles that. They bought that, and that's the Red Barn. Cambridge Technologies came about as a result of we had quite a bit of expertise in cattle diseases. We were involved in the past with an implant company, and they came up to us in about 2017 and said, can we get back with you? In other words, we make cattle antigens or the components of a vaccine, and then we send those products down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they make them into an implant to go behind at the base of the ear for cattle. And so that is a procedure that we felt that there was a real need for, and we wanted to get going in that. And we also kept going in swine, but we centered a lot of work in swine on PRRS virus, which is kind of tough in the country right now. And we are just about through licensing a universal flu vaccine or swine flu vaccine for pigs, where you can give one shot and it'll cover protection for most strains of influenza. And that is a patented product, and that should be on the market by the end of this year. It's been an 8-year project.
Oh, wow.
So on the swine, we work on influenza and PRRS, and PRRS is a pretty devastating disease. In the poultry world, Merck came to us, and they asked us if we would make custom-made poultry vaccines for them. In other words, they have commercial poultry products that are various diseases, Newcastle, you name it. But there's holes out there because new diseases pop up and new strains pop up. And they felt to best help their clientele that were on commercial vaccines, they had to solve the problems that were really bothering people. And so they asked us to build custom poultry vaccines. It was really interesting. In about 2024, there was a disease that was really running rampant through turkeys in the southern areas of the United States. It was called avian metapneumovirus, And it was hard to isolate. And once it got in a turkey herd, it wasn't as bad as avian influenza, but it was pretty serious. And so they came to us and asked if we could work on the project of a custom-made product for avian metapneumovirus. And we had a lot of tissue sent to us from the Georgia South area, and we had a researcher in our group isolated the virus, which hadn't been done very much before. And this gal isolated the virus and was able to propagate it. And it was like her boss said, it was like finding a needle in a haystack. And she found it, and we put together a vaccine, experimental vaccine that you could sell out in the country, but it was under USDA guidelines. And we really quieted down that whole disease. And then in the meantime, there was some modified live virus vaccines came out. And I think what everybody feels right now for that disease, a modified live virus vaccine and a killed is the best approach. So we're still working with custom-made killed, and we're in a project right now to get what's called a conditional license, where we'll be able to sell it across the country in a conditional manner. And we have a lot of things to do on the conditional. I sat in a meeting this morning with our reviewer in Ames and about 4 or 5 researchers, and they're working on the project with our person in Ames. It's called a reviewer, and I just listened. And so we're working on this avian metapneumovirus to get a conditional license and get a full licensure. There's other people that are saying with poultry right now, there's so many vaccine injections in poultry, they want to, for labors alone and the handling of the birds, they want to put more products together so it's not as hard on the birds and the people. And so they've asked us to do that with some custom, in a custom manner. The poultry production, whether it's eggs or whether it's meat in the United States, is just going like this. And beef is going like this, swine's a little bit more, and poultry's going like this. And we just had a group in from Thailand on Tuesday and Wednesday. And they wanted to talk to us also about what their problems were there in Thailand and what ours were. And they said their chicken production, whether it be meat or eggs, is just going up dramatically in Thailand. And they came just to compare things and see how things were here. They had heard about us through a group in China. And matter of fact, I got an email this morning from a group that I used to work with about 10 years ago. do a little consulting with in China, and they want to get together and talk a little bit more about how we're handling things over here. So the thing I've learned in life, it's a wide open area, and it will always change. Mm-hmm. And in each lab, we went for specific things to work on, the first, the second, and the third. And I feel right now, this is even the best times. And so we have some really good things coming, and it's fun. Yeah. And what's really nice in town is there's a lot of people now coming to either Merck or Vaccinova or us. So that even kind of, because there's 3 labs in town, that brings more people into town. And they have things that are in common, researchers and technicians, and so it works out pretty good.
Yeah.
Our workforce comes from within 60 miles all the way around Worthington. And we have about 100 full-time equivalents right now and about 30 to 35 part-time people. And a lot of times the part-time people are there because we're working around their schedules. Sure. Many of those people we'd like to work full-time, but they just can't do it for various reasons.
Sure, sure.
So we've been growing about a little over 20% per year for the last 5 years.
Wow, wow.
And we anticipate it'll keep growing, but it gets harder to get 22% every year because you're going up. But you know, it's exciting. And you mentioned before we started something about mentors. I had some of my best mentors were researchers in college at Iowa State University. I had 2 people that I worked a lot for, and I would get up at 4 in the morning and help them run research trials. And I kind of got the flavor for laboratory work. And then I worked for another group at Ames. And then when I first got out in practice, there was an older gentleman, and they basically said, follow your passion and work hard and follow your passion. And the fun part about laboratory work is it always changes, and people can work together.
So really, Worthington, I mean, between the 3 labs, is kind of turning almost into a little animal health hub.
Well, it is.
So why here? What makes this community work for that kind of thing, you think?
Well, I think it's because of when we started, we went out and hired people and brought them to Worthington. And we started in the 70s. And I still have contact with some of the people that in our first lab, they came to Worthington, and they were a little apprehensive because they were from big cities. Oh. But later on in life, when I saw them 20 years later, they said they had the most fun they ever had in their life when they lived in Worthington. And I tell you, Worthington it's on 2 major roads here. You can get to Minneapolis fast, you can get to Sioux Falls fast, and a lot of people want to live in a quieter, smaller town. We provide a lot into Worthington here. The school systems are tremendously important. Yes. And the activities that kids are involved in school are very important. The lake is a big draw too. There's a lot of wintertime activities, a lot of summertime activities, and I think people like to be in a smaller town to begin with. Traffic is heavy in larger towns, and it's more people get to know each other.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
And why are they in Worthington? Well, our group started them, but then other companies came in and they saw that people were getting along, and it worked out pretty good. And this Merck lab produces a lot of vaccine barrels and sends it down to Kansas City. And that's a very good lab. Vaccinova is a very good lab. And we all sort of do some things different. And then people can go down to Mavs at night and get together and have a sandwich. So, but we build it, and now it's kind of a hub, and people know it. So, you know, a lot of the livestock production for swine was in the Midwest and East Coast, but cattle's all over the country. We have to give you an example, we have a salesman in California, one in Texas, and now we just hired a veterinarian in Idaho. We have a veterinarian in Kansas. We have a veterinarian in Missouri. We have 2 other salesmen in Missouri. In Kentucky, we have a person. Florida, we have a person. Virginia, we have a veterinarian in New York. We have a veterinarian in Indiana, one in Iowa, one in Watertown, South Dakota, and then we have a couple more salespeople sprinkled in there too. So our coverage is across the country, and I think in general in the U.S. people know that there's 2 major custom laboratories, ourselves and Vexnova in Worthington. So it's easy to get overnight service up to Worthington here. And, the major labs are Minnesota, Iowa, and South Dakota, so it's kind of in a triangle too.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's do a quick lightning round here. Try to keep the answers maybe to a sentence or 2.
Okay. Cut this out.
One word to describe Worthington, or a sentence.
One word for Worthington is diversity. And I think that's been a big asset. If we didn't have the plant in town here, Worthington would be different, because I think the plant has helped Worthington.
Yes, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. We talked about this just before we came on. You addressed the mentors and how they influenced you. What would you say as how somebody could get a mentor? Just pick somebody, or someone who inspires you? How does one?
I think it's a two-way street. If people need to talk to older people and start conversations, and then ask questions and ask for advice. And generally speaking, older people are kind of like athletes. They like to talk and give you advice.
Yes,
But really, don't be afraid to go up and ask someone. I remember a gal came to work for us as an intern in the second laboratory, and I said to the veterinarians in town, you need to hire that girl. She's really going to be good in about 4 years when she was a veterinarian. But they came here for interning, and so what I'm saying is young people get recognized too.
Yeah. Okay. Best advice that you have received?
Be passionate about what you do, and you have to inspect what you expect. Get out there and go look at what you expect, and be good to people. A lot of people need 2 jobs. A lot of people are young wives and they have kids, and if they not just have, they got to get away because the kids are sick. They need to get to school activities, be flexible, and let people enjoy the work along with the children.
Definitely. Animal health, something that you're very excited that's coming.
Well, there's really top-notch diagnostics are coming, and there's what's called platform vaccines. There's organisms out there that you can't grow very well, but they're causing a lot of trouble. But you can't get them to grow on conventional systems to make vaccines. But now we can take them and we can do an analysis, a genetic molecular analysis, and we get a computer runout on it. Mm-hmm. And we can take that runout and put that into a platform virus, and then the platform virus grows. So there's snipping going here, and it's going into a platform virus, and then it can be a better vaccines. Doesn't work for everything. Really good technologies.
Last one. Young people that are watching, if they happen to be watching this on YouTube or on a Facebook post of some sort, thinking about science or entrepreneurship, what would you tell them?
We learned one thing when we working with trying to get young people excited in the school system. You can't wait till a junior and senior year in high school. Really got to, if people have passionate when they're 5th, 6th, 7th grade, and that's when they really need to really start honing their skills and ask a lot of questions and get going. If we wanted to mentor somebody, we want to get down into junior high or less, and get them to start early, because sometimes it's a little late in high school.
Gotcha. Very good. He's Dr. Wayne Fries, founder, CEO, chairman of the board, chair at Cambridge Technologies, a wealth of knowledge, impactful, part of another impactful member of Forward Worthington. So, Dr. Fries, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we'll talk about what's on the community calendar. Welcome back to Focus Forward here on Studio 3. My name is Jamie Salinas, and time to go over, once again, the community calendar. You can, of course, find this on our website, forwardworthington.com. And what we got coming up very soon here, the State of the Region event is an event that's being presented by Forward Worthington, coming up on the 12th of March on that Thursday. Second annual event here. It is a luncheon. This is where Forward Worthington is inviting you to join us for this second annual event. Timely conversation about where we've been, where we're heading, shining the spotlight on the city of Worthington and Nobles County to reflect on the projects they completed in 2025 and what they have coming in 2026 and beyond. So that is on Thursday, March the 12th. $15 for the fee, and lunch is included in that event. You can find the link to get your admission, buy your ticket for that event. Just go to our website, forwardworthington.com, get on that community calendar. Speaking of, how about the trivia event, another trivia event with Brent and Cheryl Droll at Forbidden Barrel Brewing Company. This next one going to be coming up here very soon. They do it once a month, and it starts at 6:30 and 8 rounds of trivia. And of course, while you're there, you can enjoy the lovely beers that they have, great pizzas over there. My personal favorite, the 3 meat. My family's favorite is the hot dish. The hot dish pizza. Yep. Sounds weird. It's actually quite nice. How about the winery comedy tour? That's going to be over at Round Lake Vineyards and Winery. That's going to be on Saturday, March the 14th, 7:30. Tickets are available. You can go to our website, go to the community calendar, and find that entry on the community calendar, and it'll take you to an Eventbrite link where you can purchase tickets. Winery Comedy Tour, Round Lake Vineyard and Winery in Round Lake, Saturday, March 14th, 7:30. That's going to do it for another edition of Focus Forward here on Studio 3. On behalf of Randy and Quentin behind the camera, I say thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.